Do you ever hear a little voice or whisper of who do you think you are? You know, the one that makes you second guess all of your choices or downplays your gifts, or maybe that little whisper or that voice holds you back from going after what you really want. What if I told you that that voice isn't really yours? That it may have been planted years ago in moments from childhood when you felt unseen, unworthy, or not enough. Today, we're going to explore how those early experiences from childhood can become the root of self doubt. And more importantly, how you can finally release them and step into your full power. I'm Kim Gross, and I'm the host of Masks Off for People Pleasers and Perfectionists. Thank you so much for being here. And if you're new to my show, thank you. Welcome. I'm speaking to the person out there who is stuck in procrastination, a pattern of perfectionism, a pattern of people pleasing, and you might even find yourself playing it small or staying in your comfort zone. I want to share with you how I just recently noticed another deeper layer of self doubt. I was exploring this idea of friendship and reflecting on my friendships when I was in grade school. Even as I think about sharing this with you now, if I'm being 100% honest, I can feel the imposter syndrome coming up in me. And that's another way of knowing that you have a pattern of self doubt is if you feel like you're an imposter. And the reason why I'm feeling like an imposter is because my perfectionism is kicking up and saying, Kim, you shouldn't be sharing stories like this. What are the listeners going to think? They're going to think that you're a hot mess, or maybe what you're sharing is either too personal, or it's too deep, or it's too woo woo, it's too out there. It's not enough. It's not what the listeners want to hear. Do you hear that litany of my inner dialogue? Part of me is like, don't even go there. Don't even share it. Don't even say this. But the other part of me has to share it because if this is happening for me, and I have been uncovering my masks and my patterns for a long, long, long time. And I'm very aware of them. I'm very aware of why they show up, why the pattern started, and I know how to unhook from them. I know how to heal. I know how to get to the other side. So if it's happening for me, and you're choosing to listen to this podcast, Masks Off for People Pleasers and Perfectionists, then I know that on some level you're feeling the same. So I have to share the real, the true of what happens for me in the hope that maybe you can benefit from it. So you just heard the imposter syndrome. You just heard the self doubt of why are you sharing this type of information? Is it good enough? Will they want to hear it? And so that's in real time. But the story that I wanted to share, and that's why these other thoughts came up, right? Because I'm going to share with you how it started for me, or when I first realized that it started for me in childhood with around friendships, and how that particular story, when I thought of sharing it, was, oh, don't share that. It's the listeners don't want to hear it, but I'm going to anyway. Self doubt also goes hand in hand with comparison. When I was around 10 years old, I had two friends, two girlfriends. Having a friendship with three people oftentimes can lead to, it's like that third wheel. One person inevitably may end up feeling left out. And a lot of times I felt like I was the one who was feeling left out. But there was another component at play, and that was that there was this unspoken competition between us as to who had more Anye. Now, some of you may never have heard of Anye, but back in the late 70s, early 80s, it was a designer brand. There were purses, wallets, belts, sweaters, hats, all kinds of things. And every birthday, every Christmas or holiday, either my mom or my aunt would buy me a shit ton of this stuff because I just kept asking for more of it. Did I like it? It was cute. I liked it. But more importantly, it was about me getting more or having more than my two friends. And the reason why is because we would call each other up on Christmas or the day after and say, "Oh, what did you get? What'd you get?" And if I ended up getting more pieces than they did for Christmas, I had this sense or feeling of superiority. And when one feels superior, the other is made to feel inferior. The reason why I felt I needed to feel superior was because just being my true self, I didn't feel worthy enough. Even before the age of 10 in grade school, I spent a lot of time alone when I wasn't in school. I didn't have a lot of friends. I had a cousin that I played with and I saw her often. But what I remember is being alone a lot. At times I was okay when I was in nature, but when I was bored and I didn't have anyone to play with, I felt there was something wrong with me. I felt invisible, like I didn't matter. I had this feeling of unworthiness, this feeling of not enoughness. And so then when I had the all the Anye and it helped me to feel superior, then I felt like, okay, now I have earned the approval of others. And that's the place that we go into when we have these perfectionistic or people pleasing tendencies is we go to a place of trying to prove ourselves and earn another person's love, attention, or approval. From the age of 10 on, I performed, perfected, and pleased in order to prove myself worthy or to earn another person's love and approval and attention. But that is built on a very weak foundation. It's not a true foundation. It's not a true connection. That's why, as years went on, the self doubt continued to creep in. Anytime I compared myself to my friends and I felt less than, I would begin to doubt myself. So as I went on into high school, and I had one of my best friends was very, very pretty and she was popular, and all the boys wanted to date her or they liked her. And I didn't feel pretty. I was overweight in high school and I felt that I was not pretty, but I was smart and athletic. So I honed in on those attributes. And when I had better grades, I had this sense of superiority. So again, going back to what I said a few minutes ago, don't share this. Why would you ever share all of this? That you have this sense of superiority. And the reason that I'm sharing it is because along with this is a deep sense of shame. What kind of person am I that I need to feel superior to others in order to feel okay with myself? And this pattern that I created as a child, as a 10-year-old, was to protect myself because I did not feel many times, not all the time, but at times, there was a sense or feeling that I didn't belong or I wasn't worthy. Subconsciously, of course, this isn't anything that I was aware of when I was 10, like, let me be superior and I'll feel worthy. I started to compare myself to other people because I felt like I wasn't enough. This was a time when my mom was overly critical with me, overly judgmental. I felt that my feelings, my thoughts, my beliefs were not important. They were dismissed and discounted. All of this is a huge pile up. It's a storm, a perfect storm that's coming together for me to create, not just me, but you and most people. This is what we do. We create ways of protecting ourselves, put on masks or develop patterns to just survive, to get through. But what happens is, as we become adults, they no longer serve us. These patterns, these masks no longer work. They do on some level, but they're, you know, deep down inside that something isn't right in your life. Like you don't feel a ton of joy. You don't feel connected. You don't feel fulfilled. You might feel like your life is unmanageable or miserable. These perfectionistic and people pleasing patterns are weighing on you and impacting your life in a major negative way. So you know it's not working and you want to do something different. The other things you might start doing is you just try to avoid failing because you're so afraid if you fail, so you won't take risks. So then you're not going for your dreams. You're playing it small. You're staying in your comfort zone. You are so afraid of being judged and feeling those feelings of unworthiness. So you hide your authentic self. You're just so afraid of that judgment, that rejection, that abandonment. So you do not show your true self. And you have a deep fear of not being enough. So you stay on this hamster wheel of overachieving, overdoing, perfecting, and it's exhausting. So, how do you break free from this cycle? It's a process, and that's why I've created my 5-step power pathway. It takes a good amount of awareness. That is the very first step. It's so key to even be aware that these patterns are playing out, right? So I could have easily noticed where I was feeling some self doubt and wondering why I don't have the female friendships that I want. And I could just ignore it and not even pay attention. But because, and I know that I may be a little bit unique in this way, but I love, love, love personal development. I love growing. I love evolving and becoming the best version of myself without becoming perfectionistic about it. That I am excited, like I want to become fully aware of all my patterns. It's my superpower to be so super focused and aware of all of my patterns and when they show up. And sometimes it takes time, right? Some are deeply buried in my subconscious, but eventually, as I heal, more patterns, more come to the surface, and then I have the opportunity to heal another pattern or another layer of it. The very first thing is having awareness. You can't change anything in your life if you're unaware of it. Then the second step of my 5-step power pathway is you have to be able to take ownership. You have to recognize where the patterns are coming from, how they were created, like why they were created. And then you have to take responsibility that you are the only person in the world that can heal this. You're the only person that can change this. Can other people help you? Of course, I can help you. I'm a coach, life coach, and I can help you. I can support you. I can guide you. But at the end of the day, you have to be the one that is willing to say, you know what? I have this pattern. I'm aware of it. I want to change it. I can't keep blaming my husband. I can't keep blaming my parents. I can't keep blaming my boss or this person or this situation. I can't keep being a victim. I have to be the one to own and take responsibility for making the changes. And once you are fully ready to own and take responsibility, that's when the real inner work starts. That's when the healing begins to take place. You have to be able to feel your feelings in order to heal. The other part is, which is the fourth step of my 5 step power pathway, being able to, and it takes time for this and it takes practice, especially if it's not something that you're used to. If you're not accustomed to going inward and feeling your feelings and feeling the parts of yourself that have been wounded, it does take time. It is a practice. I'm going to say that point blank. There is no easy 1, 2, 3, you're done. This kind of work is deep work, but it's so transformational. When you do this work, there's such an opportunity and possibility for you to shift and transform. So you can't just skim over the surface. It won't work. Your patterns will still haunt you. I promise you that. You have to create practice. It's something you work at. The fourth step is this willingness to at least embrace or include all the parts of yourself you try to shun, you try to suppress, you try to push it away. For example, in my story, when I was sharing about me going to this place with female friendships throughout my life, of where I would go to a place of feeling superior so that I could feel good enough and put them in my mind in a more inferior position where I would look down on them for some reason. When I say that out loud, and this is what, again, in the very beginning of this episode, was me trying to articulate that, Kim, I can't believe you're sharing this. Like, why would you? Who are you? What are you thinking you should share this about this superiority place? There's a part of me that feels like, oh my God, who does that? Who makes themselves feel superior in order to feel good about themselves? I know that many people in society do this, but I'm feeling shameful about it. Part of the practice, part of my work is to have understanding and compassion for that part of me that felt like I had to be protected. Like, in order to make me feel like I was okay, I had to make myself feel superior and I had to compare myself to my friends. At the end of the day, all that did was create more separation from me and my friends. And it created more of the loneliness. The thing I was trying to avoid, feeling lonely, it only created more of it because now there's a separation. I'm in a place of either superiority or inferiority. And so to say that out loud, especially on a platform like this, and I'm able to do it now because I've already done the work, I've done the practice of integrating that part of me and saying, it's okay. I understand. I get it. I get why you did that when you were 10 years old. You were feeling like you were not seen, you felt like you didn't matter, and you were just trying to find a way to be liked, to be included. So I get it. I understand. It's not your fault. You just didn't know what you were doing. So this is the kind of practice, this is kind of way that I have to be with that part of myself so that I can integrate and heal that. And then I can come from a place of showing up differently in my female friendships. I can come from a place where we can all be smart, we can all have success. And it doesn't mean that if they do and I don't have something, that I'm less than and they're better, or vice versa. That's what is possible in terms of the 5 step power pathway that I just outlined. That's just the basic premise of what the power pathway is, or this framework. But what I do one on one is I can guide you to go deeper and take time with this, because it does take time and it does take practice. If you're fairly new to this type of inner work, this healing work, you may have resistance to wanting to go into that pain, right? We're hardwired to move away from pain and toward pleasure. So we will find all kinds of strategies to avoid going into this pain. But I can promise you that as long as you continue to avoid, run, or hide from that pain, those feelings of unworthiness, self doubt, fear of judgment, all the things that I mentioned in the beginning of the episode, as long as you continue to keep running, it will find you. The pain will always be there. This saying, and I don't know who said it originally, that wherever you go, there you are. You might try to distract yourself, avoid, suppress, and numb your emotions, but wherever you go, there you are. You can't run from it. You can keep staying in resistance, but then what kind of life is that really? Are you being your true self? If you're living out patterns and you're not living a life, is that the kind of life you want to be living? Would you have regrets on your deathbed that you didn't find a way to heal and be your true self? That is one of the biggest regrets that people say when they're on their deathbed. They regret that they did not allow themselves to be their true selves. I don't want that for you. I don't want that for myself. That's why I show up here and I do this work every week on this platform. And I hope that something I said today sparked a bit of inspiration or a little bit of an inquiry for you as to maybe taking the next first step. And if you're new and wanting more information, you can read my book, which is on Amazon, Free to Be, Pathway to Inner Liberation, where I go in deeper. And continue to follow this podcast. You can subscribe if you're on YouTube or follow on your favorite audio platform. Finally, if you're curious about going deeper into this work and interested in having a call with me to see if we're a good fit for one another, you can go to my website, kimgrosscoaching.com, and you can book a call and we can chat and see if I can support you. So, one last thing that I invite you to do this week is when you hear that whisper of you're not worthy, you're not good enough, take a risk. When you hear that voice of self doubt, ask yourself this: whose voice is it really? I encourage you to take one of your limiting beliefs, just one, and see if you can challenge that belief this week. Ask yourself, is it really true? And can you do something differently?
Hey, Kim Gross here. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Masks Off for People Pleasers and Perfectionists. I invite you to hop on over to my website, kimgrosscoaching.com. Right there on the front page, there's a quiz for people pleasers and perfectionists. You can find out if you have tendencies. You can also get into my newsletter where you will be given valuable content every week on different topics I share here in the podcast. And if you really did enjoy this episode, if you found it helpful, if you found it valuable, please go to, if you're on YouTube, go and subscribe. If you're listening on your favorite podcast platform, then I invite you to leave a review. You can even do a star review. It doesn't have to be a written review. If you know of someone who can benefit from this podcast or this particular episode, please share it with them. I'll see you next time.